Hello and welcome to yet another episode of How to Be a Great Player. We continue our quest... Squeaky chair. We continue our quest... It was the chair, I swear. We continue our quest to unpack the different types of character that you can play. I'm skipping two, for those of you keeping track, leadership and the loner. Leadership I'm skipping because we've already done a video on do you need a leader and what is the role of a leader in a previous video. And loner I'm skipping because I hate loners. And that's all there is to say on that. So today we are looking at the Solver. Now the Solver is an interesting character insofar as, well, they solve things. Now I know that sounds like an amazing statement, but unlike the dependable or the conscience or the soul, the Solver is all about working out how things fit together. And that's not necessarily limited to just how to fit the story together. It's often how to fit the characters together. So whilst the leader is trying to drive the party to finish the quest, and the dependable is trying to make sure the leader gets there in one piece, and the conscience is making sure that everyone else is going to be all right, and the soul is busy running around catching butterflies, it is the Solver who's going, well, yes, I know that we're going after this dragon, but do we have a map? Do we have a way of actually killing this thing before we get there? And, well, once we kill it, do we have boxes to bring all that treasure back? And once we've got the treasure, do we have a way of bringing our consensus as to who gets what, and is it shared equally? Do we just divide it up? Do we know of any books on riddle solving that the dragons might like to read that they could use in their dungeons so we can overcome it? So, although the Solver is not preparing necessarily for the actual items, we need rope, we need this, we need that, we need the next thing, the Solver is making sure that the party will be able to complete whatever it's doing, or that the party is ready to do what it wants to do. Now, it makes the Solver a very interesting character because you are questioning everything. Do we have enough information about the information that we need? We know that there's a dungeon, we know that there's a starship that we need to find in this particular nebula. Are there particular monsters that have been seen around in this area? Are there particular species of alien that hang out in that nebula that we should be aware of? Can we get more information? Can we get more information, please? I am asking you a question. The Solver is also, so questions is the Solver's thing. Questions, questions, questions. So if you like to get full answers, ask questions. Now bear in mind, of course, your GM might not necessarily have thought of all the questions that your character might be asking. So if you play a Solver, sometimes you need to be prepared to give some answers to the GM. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, you might say to the GM, does the blacksmith look like he's been making orc swords? And the GM goes, I'm sorry, what? Well, does the blacksmith look like he's been making orc swords? And the GM goes, no. Okay, does the blacksmith look like his boots are caked in dark river mud, like the dark river mud that we saw when we were crossing the river near the orc camp? So what you're doing is you are providing the GM with an opportunity to give you a clue. Now the GM might have worked out that the blacksmith is working with the orcs, or maybe he didn't. Maybe his story was a little bit lacking. By you prompting him, by you directing his attention to, is there a link here, he might be able to form one. Or he might be able to reinforce one that he's already created, but which he hasn't preempted enough. So there are opportunities for you as the Solver to really solve the story in terms of holes and things. Now the other function of the Solver is to look at the party and go, during combat, you run off and try and kill everything from distance, you run off and cast spells, you stand in the middle of the field and try and hit everything with your sword, and you just set everything on fire. let's try and work together. Let's work out how we can form a killing machine, if that's the way the character wants to play, or let's work out how we can form some safety zones. So you should stand with you, you should stand with you. So often I find, especially with inexperienced groups, they never, ever, ever, ever get together and say, in combat, what do you do? What do you do? What do you usually do? Usually everyone's just left up to their own devices to try and interpret what should be happening. So when there's random dogs barking somewhere in the background, the party splits up, with the archer running up a tree and the mage casting all kinds of magic and the warrior charging forward screaming his battle cry and the thief going, well, I think it's just dogs, and I know what dogs sound like because I get barked by them at all times. The point is, the solver is about trying to get the right combinations of things to work together so that everything just clicks. If you are the sort who likes to solve things, likes to build puzzles, likes to work out how to really get the most out of something, and I'm not talking min-maxing or mathematical, although there's nothing wrong with that if that's your particular party's bent. I'm talking about coming together and really making it work. The solver's not a leader, the solver's not going to make decisions, but the solver is going to go to each party member and say, what do you know? What do you think? What do you know? What do you think? And then go to the leader and say, leader, this is what we have, and this is how I think it fits together. Try and avoid asking the GM if you can make a wisdom roll or an intelligence check or a memory check when you're trying to put together a puzzle. It is absolutely within your rights to ask for some kind of check or a clue from the GM if that's the system that you're playing. Better yet, make your own notes. Keep the GM guessing as to what he's been saying and what you've been writing down. If you are curious as to how to make the most out of your notes, I did a video on how to solve a mystery, and there's lots of information there that you can use to help make your solver just that much better. I hope this has been useful on role-playing a solver type and how it might be an interesting twist to try and be the one who solves the problem rather than just hits it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, happy playing.